Hello, this is Dr. Chris Zimmer, and I'm back. I just wanted to give an urgent update since the time has already passed on the West Coast this morning, 8:53 a.m., but it's still on, I believe, for Halloween, and I'm about to show you why. Who's that at the door? I love doing that. It's Jesus. He's still at the door. I believe we're still looking at a Halloween and All Saints' Day rapture. And let me show you the calculations. So we changed locations last time to Mazatlan because we had that moon occulting Venus at that time. So I figured that we must be doing it from that location, but it doesn't look like it now because the time has already passed. So we need to do this completely from Jerusalem. And actually, it kind of gives us a better time. It looks like we're looking at in the evening on Halloween and then into the morning in Jerusalem. So if we start the same way we did last time with the ecliptic longitude from the reference on 323 and 125 BCE, and we try to calculate a difference from that in 2024 because of the movement of the sun, and we're using now, instead of 319, I think it was, we're using 320, the day or the vernal equinox changes from the location in Jerusalem to 506. And if we do that to the position the sun was in 125 BC, we get 419 this year at a time of 1343. So we still have the same correction. Nothing's changed there. 30 days, 8 hours, 37 minutes, and 50 seconds. And this gives us the precessional change since 125 BCE. This is our correction. So if we take the vernal equinox from Jerusalem, 320, and now we're going to split up the 14 days that we add, because in this case, the Wednesday, or 320 is a Wednesday, and we can't do this on a partial day. We have to add that intercalation corrective week, that 7-day week that we have to add once every 5 or 6 years, because the vernal equinox falls on the same day as a Wednesday. So if we do that and we add 7 days, we come to 327. That's the first Wednesday after the vernal equinox, and that gives us the apparent Zadok New Year. And then we add the precessional correction, and that brings us to 427 at 8:37:50 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, and this now becomes month 1, day 1 of the adjusted Zadok New Year. So now we take that 426 and we add 7 more days because, well, partly because year 1111 told us to do so, but we do need to add a corrective day for the 125 BCE. So if we do that, that takes us to May 3rd. So we've moved by 1 day. I think it was May 2nd in the calculations before at that time, and that becomes month 1, day 14, Passover. And we're going to call that month 1, day 1 of the Zadok New Year. And we'll take May 3rd and add 182 days, brings us to November 1st. So we've moved 1 day and one day, and we still have that time, 8:37, and this becomes month 7, day 1. So we've got Tishrei 1. Now we have to add our correction of 16 minutes for the observation of the vernal equinox, which was done twice because of our modern day instruments and the way that we make that observation. That brings us to November 1st at 8:53:50 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. So our day of Tishrei 1 has changed 1 day. So now we have a month 7, day 1, or Tishrei 1, which is November 1st at 8:53:50 a.m. And what we now know, we have Tishrei 1 at the date I just gave you, a day and time, and that's observing everything from Jerusalem. But we also have to consider that Tishrei 1 begins at sundown on October 31st and ends at sundown on November 1st. We're looking at the Zadok calendar, and that's measured from sundown to sundown. So the rapture is still on Halloween, but it's moved to the evening time, and it continues into All Saints' Day, which is November 1st. October 31st, of course, we counted 206 days from April 8th, the eclipse, and G206 is highest point or the end. So we've got the end on one day, that's Tishrei 1, and then we have November 1st, 207 days from April 8th, gives us Kia, the eagle, and we saw the eagle, of course, with the comet. We end up as Purple Mountain under the wing of a Kia, the eagle. Okay, and that just shifts our November calendar slightly in regard to the acrostics, but it doesn't change the what's being said here. On 10/31, that's Tishrei at sundown, so that would be 7/1 still, and that's the end. And then 11/1 becomes Tishrei 1, and that's 7/1 until sundown, and that's the eagle. So we get that message, and then we have all the acrostics seem to line up now beautifully. We have 11/4 with 7/4 through 11/7 with 7/7, and I think this kind of tells us that we have the correct Tishrei 1 now on the calendar. And the interesting thing is, and I'll show you that in just a moment, is that we don't have 2 days throughout the world on the Zadok calendar. We only have one, and that is Tishrei 1. So we've got 3 sets or 6 acrostics total here that tell us that Satan has been robbed. This does nothing to change the timeline that we've been looking at. We still have, since the rapture starts on October 31st in the evening now, we still have man of victory, so we are victorious, and it's still telling us to accept that calculation, but reject the calculation of November 5th. Okay, so finally, this changes it doesn't change the days. We still have 10/31 and 11/1 in the world, 2 days on the Gregorian calendar, but only one date on the Zadok calendar, 7/1. All it changes is the times. It shifts the rapture into the evening on Halloween and then into the morning in Jerusalem on November 1st. And something else interesting happens here too. You can see in Hawaii, in Honolulu, the sundown is at 5:55 p.m., and we saw that time before, which is interesting, that shows up here. But since that's sundown at 5:55, that's long before the pictured rapture time of 8:53 p.m. So it's within that time frame. And then if we look at the end of this, on November 1st in Tokyo, sundown is at 4:46 p.m., and we've already had supposedly a rapture on 3:53 p.m. long before that. So this fits, all these dates and times, this fits within sundown to sundown of Tishrei 1 on the Zadok calendar. So everything seems to line up perfectly. And I think we're looking at, on the west coast of the United States, into Hawaii and whatnot, we're looking at, you can see there are four places that I've included where it's on Halloween, 10/31, and then it bleeds over into November 1st on the eastern United States and then in Israel. So I think God has been trying to keep this all on Tishrei 1, so it's in line with what he says, what looks like he says 4 times in 4 different books of the Bible, giving us what is Tishrei 1, 2024 as the rapture. So it all seems to line up. Don't lose hope. I think we're looking at a rapture, at least for me, on the west coast of the United States this evening. And then for some of you on the east coast, looks like it's later into the morning. So I hope you enjoyed this and keep watching. God bless.